Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. Let's switch gears. Let's get to the early game, and let's get to the king of college basketball right now, okay? So the early game, it was Auburn, it was Florida, and boy, oh boy, oh boy, it was certainly an interesting game. We're going to talk about all the dynamics in a minute, but if you really want to get down to why did Auburn win that game, and why did Auburn lose that game, why did Florida win it, it's 4 words. Walter freaking Clayton Jr. 34 points for Walter Clayton Jr. as the Florida Gators beat the Auburn Tigers. Final score 79-73. Florida, we now know, will play Houston in the championship game. So let's go ahead and dive in. First of all, fun game from the start. Auburn jumps out to the 6-point halftime lead. I think the thing that stood out early, I had all the stats in front of me earlier, I don't know if I still have them, is that Auburn really kind of got what they want offensively early. Points in the paint, they were up again 6. They were up 8 at the half, 46-38. And they had, in that first half, they had a total of 26 points in the paint, okay? So they're completely dominating, but second half starts, Florida comes out, they immediately go on a 13-3 run. I did have that producer. That was the only stat I got because whatever. Go on a 13-3 run, and you're like, oh, this is going to be a game. And it was game, sort of, but it really wasn't. Reason Florida won was 2 things. We're going to get back to Clayton in a minute. First thing was the defense. Listen, one thing I don't claim to be is scheme guy. I hate these guys that didn't play, these writers, these big J's. You know who they are. I heard one of them in the bathroom today talking about, well, they need to run more cross screens. No, you don't know what you're talking about. Shut up. I don't know what Florida did to hold Auburn from 41 points in the first half to 27. The fact Auburn only scored 12 points in the first 12 minutes of the first half. I don't know all the details, but what I do know is that Florida was a completely different team defensively in the second half. Auburn, I think the big thing, I feel bad for Auburn. We'll talk about the Auburn side of things in a second. But with Auburn, it was the turnovers. Auburn had 2 turnovers in the first half. They scored, not surprisingly, they scored 46 points. They then proceeded to have 12 turnovers in the second half. And that was one of the 2 differences. The other difference, it was Walter Clayton. The guy is unbelievable. You're unbelievable. I don't know if that's copyright infringement. Okay. Walter Clayton, 34 points. I mean, what's crazy about Walter Clayton, first of all, let's just get to the stats. 34 points, 5 of 8 from 3. By the way, off those 16 turnovers, Florida did finish with 16 points off those 16 turnovers. But back to Walter Clayton. 34 points, 5 of 8 from 3. By the way, now that he's gone, I'm glad that guy behind me who was like changing behind me is gone. 5 of 8 from 3. 7 of 7 from the free throw line. And every single time they needed a play, Walter Clayton came through. As a matter of fact, I saw what is maybe one of the most incredible stats that I have ever seen from a college basketball game. Besides Duke blowing a 14-point lead with 8 minutes to go, the stat was this. Producer Matt, pop up the tweet. Great stat from Jeff Borzello, really from ESPN Stats and Info working together. Borzello's awesome. Put this out. He said via Stats and Info, ESPN Stats and Info, Walter Clayton, how about this? The first player to go back-to-back 30-point games in the Elite Eight and the national semifinals since Larry Bird in 1979. Let me say that again so it can sink in. Walter Clayton Jr., the first player since Larry Bird to go for 30-plus points in the Elite Eight, and then the first game of a Final Four, the national semifinal, okay? And so I just bring it up because when I look at what Walter Clayton is doing, I'm going to say something that as a UConn fan, I never thought I would say. And that is very simply this. Walter Clayton, listen, he's still got to win one more game. But I thought what Kemba Walker did in March of 2011 and April of 2011 was unlike anything I had ever seen at the time. Now, part of that was the Big East tournament where Kemba Walker led UConn to 5 wins in 5 days, followed by 6 wins in the NCAA tournament. But just put that team on his back. Wins a national championship. Shabazz Napier puts UConn on his back as a 7 seed in 2014 and wins a national championship. What Walter Clayton is doing is the closest thing that we've seen to any of them. And I'm always, I just said it. I say it all the time. I'm always hesitant to try to elevate the present to diminish the past, okay? I think Cooper Flagg's a really good freshman. I'm trying not to be in the moment and appreciate what Carmelo Anthony did, what Anthony Davis did, what this guy did, what that guy did. And it's the same with Walter Clayton. I'm trying not to put him on any sort of NCAA tournament Mount Rushmore, but if the Florida Gators somehow win the NCAA title, when I say somehow, it's obviously certainly possible, but if Florida does it, this is one of the great tournament runs that we have ever seen via Walter Clayton. Walter Clayton, listen, remember that Jim Boeheim quote about Jerry McNamara, 2006? We wouldn't have won 10 effing games without Jerry McNamara. Well, Florida would have won 10 effing games without Walter Clayton. I'll tell you what, though, they wouldn't be in the Final Four. How about this? They wouldn't be in the Sweet 16 without Walter Clayton. Go back to that game against UConn. I'm not saying it as a UConn guy. UConn had him beat. Walter Clayton, 13 points in the final 8 minutes, wins that game. Walter Clayton, on top of it, against Texas Tech, those 2 dagger threes. What was the stat? Texas Tech was up 9 with 2 minutes and about 40 seconds. I think it was a little over 2 minutes to go. They were up 9. And they come back and win thanks to Walter Clayton. And so now, 34 points in the biggest stage. As I said, the thing that stands out too is just the efficiency with what, what really stood out. I didn't get a chance to go to Todd Golden's press conference today, is nothing's forced. That's the incredible part. And you being in the stadium, I don't know if it showed up on TV, but being in the stadium, Walter Clayton, Miles Kelly was the primary defender on him, 6'5", 6'6". Miles Kelly was basically defending him 94 feet through the court. Like 94 feet. There were times where Miles Kelly wasn't even looking at the ball. He was just chasing around Walter Clayton, okay? And so I only bring it up to very simply say that he didn't force it. He didn't rush it. He didn't try to do too much. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's an obvious answer. I can't think of a moment where I was like, oh, that was kind of a bad shot. Oh, why did he do that? Oh, he shouldn't have done that. Oh, he had the open guy. But he doesn't. He doesn't force it. He doesn't rush it. And he just is his best in the biggest games. That UConn game to go to the Sweet 16, 62% from the three-point line. That's the same as what he had against Auburn on Saturday night. And so again, you got to win one more for us to start calling you as good as Kemba Walker, as good as Shabazz. But it's got to be. I'm a little young for Danny Manning, so whatever. But at the same time, that's as good of a performance as I have ever seen on that stage. And it's just getting better and better and better and better. I don't know what else there is to say. Walter Clayton's unbelievable. 34 points on Saturday night. First guy to go for 30-plus in an Elite Eight in a national semifinal game since Larry Bird in 1979. 34 on Saturday. The guy is unbelievable.